Top of the morning, Dan and Amy and President Trump expanding Operation Legend to include the dispatching of hundreds of federal law enforcement agents to the city of Chicago, and it drew this reaction from Black Panther turned Congressman Bobby Rush, who said on a Sirius radio program the following.
Trump wants to instigate a race war. He want to have black folks fighting white folks, so he can rise up and say, I'm the real grand wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, and I'm the president. Re-elect me. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to play to the fears.
Yeah, so Bobby Rush, Trump is trying to start a race war, black people against white people. And, you know, Bobby Rush knows something about instigating race wars, doesn't he? And all for the purpose of being able to declare I'm not only the President of the United States, but I'm also the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan and re-elect me. That doesn't seem like a very compelling re-election message. I don't think it's one that Trump is going to run on. And I don't think Bobby Rush should be taken as a serious person, but nonetheless, he is as a member of Congress. So on the one track, you have that as the left's cover story for urban violence, unchecked urban violence. And the other track they're running, with the help of billionaire Michael Bloomberg, is the old gun grab. As you hear in the way they describe the violence, like Mayor Lightfoot in Chicago, but certainly not limited to her. People are victims of gun violence. They're not victims of violent repeat offenders in most cases.
Yeah, she keeps saying we need to get the guns off the street, guns that are coming in illegally from Indiana and Mississippi, and Superintendent Brown echoing the same thing.
I am directing CPD officers to redouble our efforts to recover even more guns, to make even more arrests in an effort to bring safety.
And then we all know what the problem is. If they make more arrests, doesn't matter because our Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx just lets them out on no bonds or I bonds.
You go after guns rather than the individuals we know are responsible for the majority of the violent crime. It is no mystery to Chicago police. The only mystery is why Kim Foxx won't keep violent offenders, and Kim Foxx and Cook County Circuit Court judges won't keep violent offenders behind bars, won't incapacitate them so they can't prey on the law-abiding public. That's the mystery, but that's not something they want to address. And so our friend John Lott writes about that other track, the Michael Bloomberg-funded gun control organization called The Trace, which is afoot in the big cities trying to, whip up votes for Democrats come November 3rd. John Lott, president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, joins us now. He's got a new book, Gun Control Myths, How Politicians, the Media, and Botched Studies Have Twisted the Facts on Gun Control. John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, good morning. Good to talk to you.
Tell us about The Trace and what they're up to.
Well, they're a Bloomberg-funded organization that essentially is able to write up news stories that NPR and Scientific American and other organizations essentially republish them as their own. And, I've had conversations with editors for different places, and they just say, well, it's just an independent news organization. It's just a normal newsroom. And so they have employees also that they go and hire who work for The Trace too. And it's, my question to them is, would they go and, have somebody from the NRA go and just write up news stories for them? And the answer is, they don't even consider it a question to even answer. That it's ridiculous that they would do something like that. And, but somehow Bloomberg is not considered to be an interested party in the debates.
Mm-hmm. And the line of agitprop that they're promulgating against the backdrop of this violence is, well, you have an increase in gun sales, and that's exactly why you see an increase in violent crime in places like Chicago and New York. The two are linked.
It's just so absurd. There's a simple reason why they're having an increase in crime, and that is they're not arresting people. in Chicago, one has to say they're arresting so few people to begin with. I mean, 2 years ago, the last data I've seen, the arrest rates for murders was down to 13%. It's Chicago for decades now has been seeing drops in the arrest rates for murder nationally. Right now, the arrest rate for murder is over 60%, about 63%. And it's not too surprising that Chicago has a lot of murders when you're only arresting 13% of the people who commit murders. I mean, you can go and complain about the district attorney not following through and charging people, but you're not even getting them arrested to begin with, let alone what's happening later on in the criminal justice process. And there are lots of reasons why the Chicago police aren't arresting people at very high rates, and that has to do with how their hands have been tied politically and the amount of waste that occurs because of political decisions. Rahm Emanuel make an agreement with the ACLU that every time a police officer talks to anybody, they have to fill out 2 legal-sized pages of forms with all the details of what they talked about and who they talked to and the race of the person that they talked to and the age and everything else that they have there. So it can take up to an hour to fill out the forms per person. So if a police officer talks to 4 people in the morning, their afternoon is filled up filling out paperwork.
And just on the politics of this too. I mean, since all these organizations are being stood up by Bloomberg in advance of the November election, the line of propaganda you get from the DC press corps is right. The NRA is too influential, and they engage in all these congressional races, and they have so many Congress people that are in their back pocket or otherwise afraid of them, and so on and so forth. And I mean, Bloomberg, through his various organizations, through the Trace, through Every Town for Gun Safety, is up over $100 million in investments in congressional races, which I think that the NRA's total spend on congressional races will be less than 1% of that.
Right. No, I mean, it's ridiculous. As you say, the Trace regularly, their whole stick is to go and trace the influence of money, and they talk about the NRA buying Congress constantly. In the last congressional cycle, the NRA spent something over $800,000 on backing congressional candidates across the country. $800,000 may seem like a lot of money, but it's ironic because Bloomberg boasted of spending $110 million on congressional races during the same cycle. So if here's the irony: is as I say, the Trace is always talking about the influence of money on things, and yet it ignores Bloomberg. And it ignores the influence of all of his different organizations. And if money is the corrupting thing, then why are these news organizations in bed with the Trace? Why do they, but they don't view Bloomberg as being an interested party in the gun control debate, which is hilarious.
Well, the good news is, as Bloomberg proved as a presidential candidate, sometimes there's not enough money in the world to sell manure-smelling air freshener, and so that will likely be the case in the congressional races he invests in as well. But I wanted to get your take on this prosecution of this couple in St. Louis for defending their property. And I know the Missouri Attorney General has weighed in. I know the governor of Missouri has promised to pardon if they're convicted. But the real affront, in addition to the charges themselves, is what the circuit attorney's office has done to try and make those charges hold up. A local St. Louis news outlet reporting the assistant circuit attorney ordered crime lab staff members to field strip the handgun that was brandished by the wife of the couple, field strip the handgun, They found it had been assembled incorrectly. The firing pin spring was put in front of the firing pin, which was backward, made the gun incapable of firing. That turns out to be purposeful by the couple because they used it for an exhibit in a trial that the Mark McCloskey, the husband, had. He's a plaintiff's attorney, as some sort of exhibit or as part of some sort of demonstration. The firearms experts put the gun back together in the correct order, test fired it, finding that it worked. They can't charge if the gun was inoperable because it presented no ready capacity for lethal use. So they essentially manufacture evidence against the couple to have these charges hold up. It's really, that's criminal, actually, is manufacturing evidence. But this has gone unremarked upon other than the coverage by this local St. Louis outlet.
Yeah. One doesn't know where to start with the case of the district attorney there. The police have been arresting people in the riots, not a lot, but they've been arresting the most egregious cases. There's not one charge that the district attorney has been willing to go and make against the people that the police have been arresting. And then you have this couple who live on a private street. It's not a public street. The rioters broke through the gate of this section of the city and were on their property. They were on their yard.
But they were also making death threats. They're saying that we're going to kill your dog. They're picking out which room they wanted to move into.
Saying that they were going to burn down the house and all sorts of things. And these people didn't fire the gun. As you say, the one thing I probably wouldn't have done is the woman pointed a couple times the handgun at people. But as you say, under Illinois law, it's only going to be a crime for her to do that if the gun was operational.
Right, Missouri law.
Missouri law, sorry.
Right.
And it's just the lengths that she's willing to go to, first of all, to take away this couple's guns that are there. Here you have anybody who's been watching the news coverage of St. Louis has seen the burned out buildings, the rioting, the damage that's been done. The police at times have been ordered to stand down and not do anything, and when they do arrest, nothing happens. The DA refuses to charge the rioters. What this all shows is kind of elections matter. Here you have, and the scary thing is it may show the future of our country in terms of what a future Justice Department may be like under the Biden administration. No Democrat is criticizing the actions, any of these actions that we're talking about with regard to the district attorney that's there.
And do you think the anarchy is going to stop if President Biden's elected? And
I think
civil unrest?
I just think it shows the extent to which Democrats appear to be willing to go in order to use the legal process for a political agenda. And it's just hard for me to wrap my mind around the fact that no Democrat is willing to go and criticize the actions of the district attorney. Many of them have come out and justified what she's been doing. But I have to say, you were going through some comments that Bobby Rush was making.
Yeah.
You have Biden yesterday making similar types of comments about the president, saying that
the first racist president.
Trump has been the only president in U.S. history who's based decisions on the color of people's skins. That no sitting president has ever done that before. Never, never, never. And I like people just to point out exactly what decisions Trump has made based on people's skin. And the rest of the statement is just ridiculous. Ever heard of Woodrow Wilson?
Yeah.
Who resegregated the federal government? Has anybody heard of FDR? Who, not only he invited the Olympics winners in 1936 to the White House, except for Jesse Owens. one could go on and on about these things, and for some reason he's willing to manufacture the most horrendous attack on President Trump. And I just don't even understand. When the media has Biden on, will they ask him about these statements? Do they? I mean, he's been making other similar statements, and he's been on plenty of news shows. But nobody seems to go and press him for evidence on the types of claims that he makes.
Right, but it's President Trump who's fomenting a race war, according to Bobby Rush. Again, it's the projection that the left has become so adroit at doing as part of their political gamesmanship, to be generous in advance of their cause. They're worried about losing any portion of the black vote that they need for success on November 3rd. And so this is what they do. You can't look at our performance in big cities. You can't look at how the job we're doing in protecting black families in big cities. So just remember that President Trump is a racist, and that's all that matters. That's it. Pretty simple.
What you're saying is key. I mean, who do they think's being harmed by these riots? I mean, they're occurring in the heavily black parts of the cities. Some of these are black-owned businesses that are being destroyed. The people who overwhelmingly work in these areas are black. The people who shop in these areas where the stores are being destroyed are black. And it seems to me it's a very simple calculus. If you arrest people, if you make it costly for criminals to go and commit crime, they'll commit less crime. But for some reason, they say, well, now that we bring in federal law enforcement to go and protect federal buildings, that's what's causing the riots and the damage that's there, as if places like Portland or what have you, haven't had any damage until this last Friday.
Yes. What are we going to do with this lawless federal agents? That's the real issue. John Lott, president of the Crime Prevention Center, his new book, Gun Control Myths, How Politicians, the Media, and Botched Studies, in quotes, have twisted the facts on gun control. John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Now that you're spending more time around the house, have you noticed that maybe a few things are needy?
Call Crumweedy.
Crumweedy Home Pros. There's no better investment than your home, and Crumweedy is open, doing proposals and booking jobs. Get a virtual consultation. It's easy, and we'll show you everything about your project from the comfort of your home. How it looks, what it costs, everything. This is a great time to
call Crumweedy.
Siding, windows, and roofs, all with no money down, no payments, and no interest for 18 months. And there's more. Half-price installation on siding, windows, and roofs.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Call the exterior experts, Crumweedy, Mark Olson, and Greg Olson of Crumweedy, a third-generation family business that's been doing Chicagoland exteriors now since 1953. It's all about trust, and they truly share your values.
If your home is needy,
call Crumweedy.
630-595-8020. Or just remember, homeisneedy.com. Homeisneedy.com. Crumweedy Home Pros.
When you're serious about your concealed carry training and education and are ready to learn from an active police officer with a teaching degree, check out Illinois Concealed Carry Training in Midlothian. You'll learn safe, responsible firearm use, home defense planning, conflict avoidance, situational awareness, and how to remain physically, morally, and financially